In this problem, they're asking us to calculate the mean and the standard deviation for each of the strategies below, a single line at a bank versus multi-lines at a bank. And what I want to do is use the graphing calculator, TI-83, to do this problem. All right, so let's figure out how to handle something like this. If you want to calculate the mean and the standard deviation, there's one function in the calculator that does both of those at the same time. The numbers here, these two sets of values, would have to be entered in the calculator separately. So what I want to do is to do that first. The way you enter data into a calculator like this, a graphing calculator, is you push the stat key here. So push stat. Actually, first I have to turn the calculator on. Sorry about that. So hit on. Once the calculator's on, we'll press the stat key. And once you press that key, you see the first thing that comes up on your screen is this edit option. It's highlighted, so we can just hit the number 1 or hit enter. So I'll hit enter. And now we're brought into a set of lists. We have list 1, 2, and 3 in our viewing window that we can see. If I arrow up here to the top of where L1 is highlighted, if I hit clear, I will clear all that data out of the list here, right? Because all these numbers are in the way. So I'm going to arrow up to the top. I'm going to press this button clear. Once I do that, nothing really happens except for the data there in that last line disappeared. If I push the purple arrow down, it all wipes out the data, right? So all the data disappears. So that's how we clear the list quickly. Now, once we've done that, we have to enter all these numbers into our calculator. The way we do that, we just type it in and hit the button enter after each one. So I'll hit 6.5, press enter, 6.6, enter, 6.7, enter, 6.8, enter, 7.1, enter, 7.3, enter, 7.4, enter, and we have 3 7.7, so 7.7, enter, 7.7, enter, and 7.7, enter. All right, so those are all the numbers. You can see the last one is in position 10, and there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 values, so that's good. And if we scroll back through the list, we can see that they all look like they're two numbers there, right? A number points some other number, and so that means that we probably didn't make any errors without checking them all detailedly. Okay, now what we're going to do is type in the other set of numbers in the second list. So you can see I arrowed over. So I was in L1 and I pushed this purple arrow to the right and I go into L2. I'm going to type all these numbers in next. So 4.2 down and 5.4. You see I actually pushed down instead of hitting enter. That works the same way, right? So 5.8, enter, 6.2, enter, 6.7, enter, 7.7, enter, 7.7, enter, 8.5, enter, 9.3, enter, and lastly 10. Okay, so again, you can see we have the same number of values, 10 in each list. Okay, so that's perfect. We've entered all the data into the list. It's all in there safely. Now what we have to do is press the stat key. So press this stat key, which is another example where we use statistics in the calculator by pressing the stat key. There are a lot of cases where that's what we have to do. So I'll press stat. We go over there. We see that we're on that edit place again. We don't want to be there though. We want to go over to where it says calculator. So I'm going to hit this right purple arrow to where we see calculate. And then we see option 1. It says 1 variable statistics, 1 var stats. That's 1 variable statistics. So I'm going to push 1 there to take that option, or I can hit enter. So I'm going to hit enter. And it comes up, I have 1 variable statistics, and you can see the calculator's cursor is blinking at us. The reason why it's blinking at us is it wants us to tell the calculator exactly what data we want to handle with this function. So do we want to use the data that's in list 1, or do we want to use the data in list 2, or perhaps do we want to use both of them? Well, we want to do it one at a time, so we're going to do L1 first. So I'll hit second. This button here, second, and then the number 1. Because you see in yellow, there's a little L1 above the number 1. That's telling it L1. So I'm going to hit the second key first, and then the number 1, and you see L1 come up. Then just press enter, and the calculator will do its work. What we get in the output here is we get the mean, right? We can see X bar there at the top is 7.15, so that's the average. That would be like the average wait time basically at the bank. And then if you scroll down a little bit to where it says S, right? You see that visually S is 0.477 basically if you round it. That's your standard deviation. Now there's the population symbol sigma there, but that would be if these are all the wait times that the bank has ever experienced. And I don't think so, right? We don't have a population set of data. We just have a little sample of data, just 10 wait times there. So S sub X is the value you need. S sub X, that just means the standard deviation for the variable you entered into the calculator is 0.477. That's nice. If you scroll down to the list, you'll see that it gives you the sample size n, it gives you the minimum score in your list, It gives you the first quartile, which is the 25th percentile. It gives you the median, or the 50th percentile. It gives you the third percentile, and these numbers, and a max. And those are the numbers that you need basically for a box plot, right? Your 5-number summary is given you. All right, so that's basically the one variable statistics for L1. That's for the single line setup. So the standard deviation is 0.476. Let's go look at L2. So we do the same thing again. We can press the stat key. We'll arrow over to where it says calculate, but we'll go down to option 1 again, but change something this time. So we're going to hit enter, right? We have one variable statistics on our calculator blinking at us there. And what we want to do is we want to tell it to do list 2 now, to tell it to do list 2. So I'm going to hit second L2, or second number 2. And that's the thing that we're doing differently. We're telling it to use the data in list 2. So I hit second L2 and hit enter. I'll get my results. Now you can see the mean is the same, it's 7.15, but you see the standard deviation is quite different, it's 1.82. This number, this line, multiple line, has a much greater standard deviation. The other one had a 0.4 something standard deviation. This is a 1.8 something standard deviation. So this is a lot more variation, and that means that we'd actually prefer the single line, because in other words, they have a more consistent weight. People can plan their day around their bank visit a little easier because they can kind of figure out what their weight would be. It's going to be close to that average weight of 7 minutes, and it'll be pretty consistently around that weight. Where these people, sometimes they weight as low as 4, sometimes as high as 10, so on and so forth. So there's more variability, which means that it's sort of uncertainty when they go to the bank how long they'll wait, and that can be stressful. So we prefer a more consistent wait time. It allows the bank to plan and allows the customer to plan, right? So that's the answer to the specific question. Again, if you scroll down here, you have the mean, median, you have the quartile 1, quartile 3, the minimum, the maximum, all of the stuff you would need for a 5-number summary. Once again, we use S for our standard deviation if the data is from a sample. All right, so that basically is all we have to do here. I just want to talk about a couple little things with the calculator. If you want to clear this off your screen so you don't see it anymore, you just hit the button clear and it disappears. And the other thing about it is if you were to run that whole procedure again, like hit stat, hit arrow over to where it says calculate. So again, stat, arrow over to where it says calculate. Press enter to put one variable statistics. And if you didn't put anything in and just hit enter, you'll see that it gives the results for list 1 by default. So if you're not careful and you want to do list 2, but you don't put list 2 in there, you're going to get the results for list 1 again. So you want to be very careful. Either always use list 1 and just clear the data out and use it again, or remember to change the list that you request the information for. So if I want list 2, I have to do stat, arrow over to where it says calculate, hit enter to get one variable statistics up, and then I have to tell it second L2, and then hit enter. And that finishes the problem.